How's it going, everybody? The Seer here, and it's time for another defense options video. Now that we're currently in week 3 and we have a lot more information based on the season, I thought now was a good time to be able to get another video out for you guys. Now, some of the changes that we ended up discovering is stage 4 kind of got changed to where tech and skill as opposed to bio and tech. The stage 6 room is actually kind of a dead room. The bonuses or what the room does isn't really what was initially intended when the room was designed. So really the only thing that matters in there is if you use your Cabal, you can add Void Knight as an offensive tool to be able to work with them. Another change is that we now know the Immortal X-Men is the future team that was currently advertised. And this is going to be an offensive tool for us. And the bonuses to where on assist they get Safeguard is something we could start playing around with. Now, the Immortal X-Men has already been making waves in Cosmic Crucible, whether that's on offense with Storm or defense with the team where you can kind of combine them with the other X-Men characters. They're actually working really good right now as the 4-piece. And I'm looking forward to when Jean Grey comes out on January 3rd to being able to use that full team on offense. Now, some other information that we currently have, on the bottom right corner of the infographic, you see there's the Black Knight pointing at the Super Skrull and Kahori. This is basically telling you to use your Black Knight on offense, as he's a great offensive tool to be able to shut down that Super Skrull and Kahori, because they are huge menaces, especially if that Kahori ends up getting those 2 or 3 diamonds that we've been facing. She can single-handedly delete your team as a one-man army. Another thing is using Guardian or Echo. If you have a big Infinity Watch, plug one of those with your Infinity Watch, including Moondragon. You're going to drop Nebula, and that's able to help you get rid of a Captain Britain team, more the character itself, even with Odin on there. Then you go in for the follow-up. So you can basically do a single sack into the Odinati team with this. It's still very difficult to have it go off, but it's definitely a possibility if you have a huge Moondragon. So I don't advise you to build your Infinity Watch if it's not already built. However, Moondragon is very powerful, being able to take out a Captain Britain, so you can go in and get a very easy cleanup on the rest of the Odinati team. So without further ado, I'm going to end up turning off the camera. We're going to end up going in through each of the infographics. Now I'm going to explain my thought process behind my team that I'm using and other teams that could end up working in those rooms. Stage 1, Invulnerable. In this room here, Raiders and Skirmisher characters do an extra 200% more damage when they drop under 50% health. Now, all of these characters that's in here, I would advise you to either go with the Raider or Skirmisher, with the exception of Kahori. And that's in the team I'm currently using. I'm using her as a striker. The main reason is because Spider-Man Pavitra will end up putting out the vulnerables on the enemy team. So when she takes her 2 turns, she's going to end up hitting a striker hit into vulnerables, giving you that double tap and hopefully deleting several of these characters before they get a turn. Now, having Mephisto in here means you have to do a double sack, which really throws off the turn order and what you can expect to happen when you go in for that final hit. I do have Shadow King in here as a 5th member, and that's mainly due as a filler. I'm not really using Astral on defense, and he actually brings a lot to the team to where he basically gets those pings, being able to use the ultimate to clear several of the negative effects on my side of the field. And then we have Thanos Endgame, who if you end up pushing, he's going to get the passive off and basically delete the entire team. This is a very tough defense that I ended up taking from Nemesis in one of our matches, and I haven't looked back since I put this thing in stage 1. It's got me several victories, whether they can't clear it, or it sucks a lot of efficiency out, or it takes a lot to be able to beat this team. It's very difficult. Now, 2 other options they can end up going with is going to be the Annihilators with Super Skrull and Kahori if you have a big Kahori, or Mephisto. Either one of those combinations works as a very good team in here. The Mephisto making it to where you have to do the double sack into here, and then you have to try to deal with a Thanos getting pushed or Super Skrull getting that ultimate off as a Raider. It's very devastating to your opponent. Now, if you want to go with a more offensive heavy team, you can end up putting the Extreme X-Men in here because of Nightcrawler or Gambit gets the ultimate off, it could delete the entire team. Now, I do recommend having Nightcrawler on offense because he works very well as a offensive tool, whether that's with Old Man Logan or some other combination team, such as the Immortal X-Men right now. You can run the 4-piece Immortal X-Men, throw a Nightcrawler in there. That's a very good offensive tool for you. For stage 2, what you wish for. All characters, when use an ultimate ability, generates 1 ability energy for each enemy. The team I'm using in here is going to be the 3-piece Annihilators. I have Silver Surfer in here because I have Thanos Endgame elsewhere, and I like using Ultimates as an offensive tool. I have Dorm in here, so that way they are going to get the revives, and then Super Skrull in here because you can't really use Cabal in here. If you use Cabal in here, it has a high chance of failing. I've had several people try that, and it doesn't really work that well. Now, another team they could end up doing is the 3-piece Annihilators, Super Skrull, and throw Kahori in here if you end up going with a Super Skrull Mephisto in stage 1. Adding Kahori in here is a very interesting mix. It gets another exposed out there for Super Skrull to kind of hit into, get the extra damage by hitting into those exposed. And again, Kahori, having it to where she's able to get ability energy when the opponent uses the ultimate, that's going to make it to where she can ult and get that double turn or the special off. This could be a very strong defensive tool in here. Now, the other 2 teams in here, it's not really going to work as well for you. It's just other options that I feel. Having the Extreme X-Men Dorm in here with Rogue, having it to where they're going to be getting the ability energy and having it to where they can start getting their moves off much faster, especially Forge. That's definitely something that you could think about. Or the Astral team with Dorman in there, or a Preton such as Black Knight. Those are pretty good options as well. However, the Astral team has very easy counters. If your opponent doesn't know them, then they basically underestimate it or overinvest in it, and it either becomes a loss for them or an efficiency sink. So that's why I still like Astral on defense for those that don't use the spreadsheet or know what the counter is. Use that second team, if you will. For stage 3, when it rains. In this room here, it's basically when a positive effect is applied to a character, all of the positive effects are extended by 1. When a negative effect is applied to a character, all the negative effects are extended by 1, up to a maximum of 3. The team I've been using in here is the kind of an X-Men mashup team. So we have Storm and Beast from the Immortal X-Men. We have Forge and Gambit from the Extreme X-Men. And then we have Rogan here. The main reason I have this is because people's been using their Super Skrull in here. And if they use Super Skrull into this team, it means they can't use that Super Skrull into my Odinati team, making it to where it's very difficult to get the clear once you end up burning that team. Now, the Odinati team obviously is Illuminati with Odin, and whether that's with a Pretant or no Pretant, it's a very difficult team to try to take out. Now, other teams they could end up putting in here is going to be an Illuminati type of team, whether that's with Odin or Black Knight or just the full Illuminati. That's something you could end up doing in here as well. They get a lot of positive effects and they dish out a lot of negative effects. This room plays really good into this team. It's just, I'm trying to make it to where my opponent has to use their superior 6 team, so they can't use it elsewhere. So it's kind of a bait room for me right now. Now, 2 other teams is going to end up being, again, the Astral Odin team. They get a lot of positive effects and a lot of negative effects that they dish out. They have a cleanse mechanic as well, with Shadow King using his ultimate or Emma Frost. And they get a lot of ability energy very fast due to Ancient One's passive. So that's something I do like in here. And then there's the Spider Society team to where they get a lot of positive effects and they keep pushing out positive effects. So it's really easy to get those extends on them. So it is something you could end up playing in here if you don't want to use one of the other options that I mentioned. For stage 4, Temporal Shielding. Tech and skill characters on basic, they gain speed up, and with speed up at the end of their turn, they're going to get barrier for 20% of their max health. I've been using my Illuminati with Sasquatch and Odin in here. Having it to where somebody has to try and use that burn attack to kill Captain Britain It's much more difficult to do that in stage 4 due to the extra barrier that's on Captain Britain. If it ends up failing, then they either need to try to back out, sack it again, or they're just going to try and ignore the room, making it to where we have to play a 5 versus 5 sort of matchup on here. So that's why I do like this in stage 4, because Hank Pym does get the speed up on the team. So when they get their turn, at the end of it, they're all going to get their barrier. It works very well in that aspect. Now, another team that I was kind of playing around with is kind of a Illuminati Mighty Avengers type of team. If we use the 3 remaining Illuminati team, and then we add Invisible Woman into the mix, she does give that 20% extra health to Reed Richards, so he's going to have 70% extra health. It makes him more durable. I ended up adding Vision in here, mainly because Falcon could end up being an offensive tool, and Vision I'm not really doing anything with. I have tested this team out in stage 6 previously, and it did okay as far as what it pulled. It's just I didn't end up keeping it on there. So that is something that you can kind of consider. The team is slower, so it is easy to get ahead of it. However, with the new stats, they are more durable, making it to where they will pull a few more turns than your opponent is expecting. Now, there's also going to be the Spider Society team or the Orcus team with Cable. These are kind of filler teams. The Orcus team is very easy to end up countering, so they're not really going to be able to take advantage of the room bonuses. And I did end up adding Cable with them due to getting the speed up on them for the turn meter, making it to where your opponent has to try and either match that by adding Emma on there if they're aware of it, or they're just going to try to brute strength it, and they're going to get hit with some efficiency due to taking some health bonus turns on their hits. The Spider Society team, again, it's more of an efficiency sink for them. If you end up taking the Spider-Man Pavitra off, I have been using a pre-taunt in there, if that is something that you want to do, which we're going to look at that in stage 5. For stage 5, city characters on dodge, they are going to be gaining an offense up, and on a successful hit, they're going to gain a defense up. I've been using the 4 remaining Spider Society members with Zombie Juggernaut. Basically, I put a pre-taunt in here, so that way they can't really target some of the other characters, and it makes it to where the efficiency kind of hits them a little bit more than they were expecting. Now, you could end up going with the Hive Mind Super Scroll Sasquatch team in here. There are going to be city characters to where they can take advantage of this in the Red Goblin and Carnage. However, I think people's kind of over the Hive Mind Super Scroll at this time due to what we're doing in the stage 1 and stage 2 with the Annihilators team, having it to where it kind of negates the Cabal counters into them. It's been a very good counter for that. Now, teams that I do want you to avoid using in here are going to be the Orcus team and the Extreme X-Men team, mainly due to the New Warriors having a lot of city characters. The Night Stalkers are city characters, so they're going to be able to really take advantage of the room bonus on offense. So you're really not doing any justice by putting those teams in here. If you want to use these teams, you can use them in other rooms to try to keep them as fillers. So that way, you're not giving your opponent extra buffs for punching into them. For stage 6, Symbiote Satisfaction, this one here is basically a dead room. The hero symbiote characters count as villains. That's only going to help you on offense with the Cabal team. The rest of it, it's not going to happen. Basically, that hero symbiote character has to drop by 50% health for this to happen, and it's not really anything worth noting on here. So that is unfortunate. So just treat this however you want as a dead room. Use any filler team, and I did give you some options in here with the Orcus and Cable, the Illuminati Mighty Avengers team, Extreme Dorm, or the Astrodome. Whatever you're not using in one of the other rooms, you're going to end up throwing in here, and that should end up working just fine for you. So that is all that we have as far as the defense options video. I know it's not really as in-depth as far as options you could end up using like we did in the previous seasons. It's just because some of these rooms are not as impactful, and We have a lot of set defenses, and it's just shuffling them around in other areas, but I do hope I was able to give you a little bit of inspiration on what I'm doing on defense. That way you can kind of play with that, run with it, and make changes to make it more your own. Now, if you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.